We're going to get started momentarily, so I would ask the speakers from the last panel if you can work your way out so the next panel can get started, and if anyone really needs to speak to them, go out in the hall, but I suspect they're going to be around for a while, so we'd prefer if you stay seated if you're already here.
We're a market research firm. We really specialize in understanding the consumer and the different devices and technologies that and services that they use in and around the home. Today's panel is going, or this morning's panel, the current panel, is going to really discuss something that's been touched upon in a number of other panels. As you've heard today and yesterday, there have been a number of references to essentially the new generation of consumers of mobile devices and services. While I thought that I was a generation, at least that's what Pepsi told me, but apparently there's a new generation now. And one of the, we actually recently did a survey of consumers with mobile devices, and one of the things that we found was there was actually a substantial difference between those under 24 and those over 24 in how they communicate and how they use mobile devices and services. The chart that you see on the screen now, that's what consumers within the last 90 days. How many? And you can see almost twice as many did text messaging, sent photos via mobile phone. And if you look at what they want to do in the future, you can see a substantial, from 50 to 100% difference in what they want to do. They want to send mobile messages. They want our multimedia messages. They want to use a number of the advanced features that we've heard about. So the today is a panel of experts in this area. Each of them, this generation is a significant part of what they do. So let me start off with introducing them. I'll introduce their name, and they can tell us just a little bit about their company. Let's start with Leslie Poole. Leslie?
Hi, I'm Leslie Poole. I'm CEO of JV and Digital Payment Solutions. We're an e-commerce service provider that delivers hosted ASP technology platforms for the online and digital and mobile sale of digital goods.
Okay. The next on our panel, Mark Zachary with Kajit.
Hi, I'm Mark Zachary. I'm Vice President of Content and Partnerships for Kajit. We're a new nationwide mobile phone service for tweens and early teens. You can find us in Best Buy, Limited To, Long's Drugs, and we provide a variety of services and customizable features for parents and content for kids.
Great. Next member of our panel, Todd Kelly, Vice President of Business Development for Dada. Can you tell us a little bit about Dada?
Dada and UPOC. Dada is a worldwide provider of B2C mobile media and social networking products. We're in about 20 countries right now. In the US, we're one of the top 3 players. We also provide social networking services. We recently acquired UPOC, which is probably the oldest mobile community service here in North America. We acquired them in August of 2006. And that's what we're doing.
Great. And at the end of the table, but certainly not least, Doug Britt with Helio, who's basking in the recent reviews on some of their products.
Absolutely. Good morning. My name is Doug Britt. I'm the Senior Director of Product and Services at Helio. For those of you that don't know Helio, we are a MVNO. We are aimed at the 18 to 34 tech-savvy, aspirational crowd with a strategy very much around creating a connected experience for our members, not just with voice, but with data services. We are known at this point for having exclusive devices, innovative services, clear and simple pricing on a speedy nationwide 3G Our parents are the parent of Helio, or SK Telecom, who's probably the most technically savvy carrier in the world, as well as Earthlink, a next-generation wireless internet service provider here in the States.
Great. Well, let's hop right into it. We talked about the instant messaging generation, and clearly the way that the younger demographic communicates and uses these services is very, very different. Let's start there. What does this demographic want to do on their mobile devices?
I'll start with that. I mean, a big part of it is they want to stay connected. They want to stay connected to their friends. They want to stay connected to their family. With our demographic, which is primarily 8 to 16, the way they like to do it the most is text messaging and AOL instant messaging. We have some of the lowest rates in the business for text messaging, just 5 cents in and out. We do unlimited AOL instant messaging. And certainly we're looking to implement more features to allow greater communication of multiple kids communicating with each other at the same time rather than just one-to-one.
Okay, anyone else?
Yeah, I'd follow up with that, and I think from our vantage point, they basically want to do anything on a phone that they can do on their PC. So, you know, consume any and all forms of media, communicate in all the ways they can do on the PC, laptop, desktop. I don't think this demographic grew up with a distinction of you do computing on a computer and you do speaking or voice on a phone. I think they see them as somewhat ubiquitous.
Okay.
Yeah. I think to mirror Todd and Mark, you know, Helio very much has that same general core strategy around innovative services, that it's all about staying connected to your friends, your community, your family, and not just in the sort of traditional voice and the traditional text messaging ways, but for a full suite of services, be it from, like we talked about, some of the community elements. We're the first to deploy MySpace Mobile. Our penetration rates and just have shown a voracious appetite for this first generation of community services. We talked a little bit about instant messaging. Our instant messaging penetration rates are probably 10x what the rest of the industry has had. We can tell that core market right now is looking for that immediate connection. They're looking for presence engines that can tell me the right way to communicate with my friends at that time. They're looking for the ability to not just consume data, but to share data, to share an experience, to post, to blast messages to friends, to have alerts when they have new messages, to share an address book record, to take their user-generated content, be it photo, be it a online video that they've taken, and get out into the world as quickly as possible, be it, again, a text, a pic, a community posting. You know, it is something that we've seen pretty much across the board from the adoption rates, that this target market will consume these services when you put them in front of them at a rate that I don't even think we expected it to be this high, and certainly the mobile community, I think, continues to be a little bit surprised at the speed of adoption for some of these next generation services.
One thing I'll add to that, and I totally agree with Doug's point, this generation really more than any other wants to share everything. Truly the most inane things. People are just constantly sending messages where they are, what they're doing. You know, when you have devices with keyboards, blogging experiences, posting to their MySpace page, wherever it may be, that privacy no longer exists. They want to share every aspect of their lives.
Yeah, privacy is an interesting question when you're talking about essentially kids. You're talking about many that are under age 18. Where's the parent's role in this? How do you factor in parental controls when you have a demographic that is very interested in being independent?
Happy to kick this one off, I guess. I think, so certainly Helio is aimed at a crowd that is probably a touch older than Mark's were, and Mark Young out there would say me, or folks that may have more of a friends and family type of approach. We're aimed at that 18 to 34. We're aimed at folks who are consenting to the types of content we have, such that our parental control requirements are probably a little less than others out there in the audience. That said, you know, having sat on the CTIA content action teams, the industry is taking strong steps around parental controls, but in a smart way. I think a ratings type of engine. I think it's very smart ways to ensure that folks know exactly what they're about to see if it's programmed from a carrier. I do think that the industry, and I think Todd talked about it a second ago, it's letting that PC environment come alive. I think we've taken a stance that an open HTML browser with pure open whitelisting is the way to go, because again, those controls aren't what our core members look.
And it's certainly in our case, an 8-year-old is very different from a 14-year-old, and what a parent wants, the way the parent wants that child to interact is very different. So we really think of them as negotiable limits, that there are a number of services that the parents can negotiate with the child as far as what they have access to, when they can use the phone, who they can call, etc. And the child can really grow with the phone. So that as they get older, they can say, okay, you can browse more websites, you can use the phone later at night, you have a bigger allowance, whatever it may be. So it allows that measure of flexibility and customization.
How about from Javian's perspective, and clearly setting kids loose with credit cards or the ability to be able to spend money is certainly a parent's nightmare. How do you deal with that?
Well, there are two issues. One, especially like in the digital music industry where we're strong, the addressable market is primarily kids who don't have credit cards, so you have that limitation that you have to overcome. Secondly, if you do give them some type of e-commerce enablement, you need controls. We're actually getting ready to deploy into production a parent-child module in which the parent can sponsor the child and establish a billing method and preference, as well as establish some limits on the type of content and maybe pricing and monetary limits. And then we're going to embed also some ways of authenticating it, such as a text message when the kid's consuming, and the parent can say, okay, I'll allow them to buy that. But yes, I think, especially from an e-commerce perspective, it's important. One, if we're going to realize the full potential of m-commerce, to have multiple billing options, and secondly, to have parental controls.
Okay. That brings to my mind the question, it seems that there's the possibility that you would have people sign up for a product or service or purchase something and then have the parent call a week later and say, I had no idea my kid was doing this. How do you overcome that? How do you market? Because ultimately, isn't the parent that has to sign up for the plan or the program?
Yeah. No, Brett, that never happens. Not in our business, no. All of our under 16 customers always discuss this fully with their parents. No, it is a big issue. We sell a subscription service. A lot of our customers are similar to yours, under 18. And theoretically, you're supposed to get adult permission to bill the service, but they don't. And so we do get a lot of parents calling us up, and it's usually not a week. It's usually 3 months later, and they're saying, I never did this. I never subscribed to this. And sure enough, their kids do. And it's an ongoing issue between us and the carriers, because both entities have customer service personnel. So, some of the customers will call us directly, trying to get something like this resolved, and some will call the carrier directly. And so the carrier is put in a difficult position sometimes, because do they trust their customer or do they trust their provider? I think the customer is going to win every time. So I know that there are some steps that some of the carriers are taking to try and synchronize this and make this issue much less of an issue than it is currently.
We've dealt with this in a number of ways, two of which being the first, we're pay-as-you-go service. So if a parent puts $20 in a kid's account and 3 days later they get an email saying that your kid now has $0 in their account, they know something's wrong and they know it's being spent quickly. So, and they also have real-time call activity, so they can log on at any time and see up till 5 minutes who called the kid, what the kid downloaded, exactly. So you don't have that issue where you're waiting for a bill to come a month or two later and get a big surprise.
That'd be nice.
Now, by my understanding, Khajiit, Helio, and Dada, you all work off of a subscription-based business approach, correct?
We do not.
Well, no,
you
we're
don't.
different.
Okay.
Yeah.
We are, people buy the phone, they activate it, and there's a very simple rate plan just pay for what you use.
Okay.
We're a little bit different. In fact, we like to think we're a lot different than the rest of the wireless industry in that we've taken a very simplistic pricing approach to the market. Having formerly been at Singular, I think at the time I left, if you put all the various pricing combination plans around what somebody could sign up for, it was, I think, somewhere around 783 different combinations of price plans that you could put together. We have very simple, for the most part, a bundle of minutes and all-you-can-eat data. And again, we've focused on building a set of services that is unique enough that that quote-unquote subscription package, the monthly value that we provide, is a very rich set of services, be it all-you-can-eat data for browsing, our hot product, part of a core video package, Google Maps with GPS, our Buddy Beacon. All of that is part of your product, so we're encouraging that usage. But yes, the subscription is your monthly service fee.
Okay. In the future, how do you get beyond that? How do you get beyond what is the evolution beyond the monthly fee from monetizing these products and services?
So I think there's a couple. Certainly, there's the traditional download model that is a one-time purchase, perhaps a subscription. There is ongoing subscriptions for value-added service for us, say a premium video package or our answering product. Certainly from an enterprise standpoint, there's additional revenue streams around mobile search, mobile advertising, and then certainly there's even at a deeper level, there's micropayment components that you may have inside of a game. I want to get to another level. I have a rich community application such as instant messaging, or a Second Life or Habbo Hotel where I may want to buy a piece of furniture for my experience or an avatar, those types of things. So I think that there's still a number of future revenue generating opportunities for carrier and content providers.
One of the things that we see coming down the pike is and using digital music as an example in that context, the mobile device becoming a conduit for not just digital sales but physical sales. It's a great trigger point for access and tying in all the merchandising opportunities that follow music and entertainment. That's a $60 billion industry right now, so I think down the road you're going to see folks who, let's say, subscribe to Urge, and they can get text messages while they're downloading a video or an MP3 file like Snoop Dogg, and then be prompted, hey, I see you like Snoop Dogg, would you like to buy the upcoming show? That, I think, is going to open up a whole world of opportunities for, again, not just digital, but tying in all the accompanying merchandising in the entertainment industry.
Okay. One of the things that you had mentioned earlier, Todd, was the social aspect. And in fact, I think Mark mentioned it earlier, the whole social and sharing aspect of this generation. That's a big deal to them. How do you see that playing out in terms of how you market them, how they use these services? How is that factoring into the future for this generation?
Well, I think it's the core of this group going forward. I think they look at their services holistically. They don't. I think they look at the bundle of services and say, okay, I want all of those. I'm going to use this occasionally. I'm going to use this occasionally. But the major difference in this group versus old people like me is that they're not afraid to dive into the phone and get through all the barriers that are in there. And I think Helio is a good example of trying to break down those barriers, right? I mean, one of the biggest problems in accessing all of the services that are available is just getting to them. And I think that's why this industry is marketed to the youth, because they're not afraid to make mistakes on the phone, get lost, and try and get the thing to get to a service and use it. And that's something that they're going to carry with them because they've been successful at it as they go forward and grow older. But again, I think they have a very different mindset. I think the earlier panels were talking about silos of products. They don't think about it that way. And I think both of my friends on either side would probably agree with me, and that's probably, I think, key to their marketing approach. is that that you're offering a bundle of services, and they're going to use them all.
Do you see that as well? Do you see it not being siloed, but how do they see the services?
This has been one of the core value propositions for Helio, is that because of our all-in plans, we try to think about things as a user experience, not a product that I have to sell. Some of the technology we brought with us from Korea has given us a unique advantage that can allow one application to invoke another application. So from a messaging suite, I can invoke a browser. From the address book, I can invoke Google Maps. That ability has let us think about things in a richer manner that says, how's a user want to use these products, not necessarily how I have to build them or sell them or package them up, but rather what's the natural sort of user experience that someone's going to take. So yeah, that element of integration and the ability to, for lack of a better word, the industry buzz term, mash these things up, I think technically and just from a mindset and from a pricing support standpoint, it's given us a really nice set of innovative services that's unique.
Just adding on to one of Todd's points, we did a beta test with over 7,000 kids across the country using phones and giving their feedback that really helped shape our service that we went to retail with. A question we asked all, what do you like most about the phone? And the #1 answer was, I now have a phone. So sometimes something so simple is really what's so exciting. And it doesn't even matter if they can call anybody. They can show their friends that they have a phone. And it's not a Firefly phone with 4 buttons. It's a real phone like mommy and daddy have. But in talking about the features, you know, on our beta handsets, buried in the features was a voice recorder. And within days of kids getting their handset, they figured out that they could go into this, sing into the voice recorder, and set that as their ringtone. Something that we were not marketing at all, that some people in the company didn't even know you could do. So you really learn a lot from the kids, and they use the phones to the fullest.
Wow, that really gets back to what Todd was saying, that they seem to have either the disposable time or the technical savvy to be able to get down into the phones and understand applications that the earlier generation may not know or care or even there.
And they're willing to trial as well, where I think a lot of us look at something and say, you know, that's a little confusing, I'm not exactly sure how it works, I'll just let it go, and they're just willing to try just about anything.
Okay. Well, this demographic is clearly one that's coveted because of their desire, their use, their drive for this type of, the type of enhanced features that carriers and others want to provide. As you've marketed to this demographic, what are some of the lessons that you've learned about how to market to them, how to be successful in reaching this demographic?
For us, it's, you know, whereas we have 2 amazing parents, you know, we're still not going to be a Singular or a Verizon trying to hit an entire mass market and sort of the shotgun approach of spending, you know, $3 billion a year to do that. We've spent a lot of time thinking about the habits of this target market and them. And you know, we've done an amazing amount of surveys. I think before launch, we actually lived with about 20. When I say lived, we had somebody live with about 20 of our target market. And what it taught us is when their TV habits take place. Our prime time is not 8 to 10 for our market. It's 11 to 12:30. It's late night. It is a very targeted set of print. It's not that mass music tour, it's the very targeted local one. To really get to this base, I think you need to understand their purchasing habits, you need to understand their communication habits. You know, putting a newspaper ad isn't going to work, putting a Super Bowl television ad isn't really going to work. It's really thinking about where they're going to spend their time, the viral aspects about how word is spread. Certainly we based much of our early piece around MySpace, the viral component that we took advantage of, and the 300,000 friends I think we have on MySpace now at this point. You know, it's using the tools that they use in their day-to-day communication patterns that's really the crux and the key.
Just to add to that one point for our demographic, as well as not to talk down to them. Even as young as 8 years old, these are smart kids. And in many ways, they're the best advocates for our product. And more even though we've been advertising on television only for about 6 weeks, I talk to parents and I tell them where I work, and they say, oh, my kid was just trying to sell me one of these. And explaining why this is so great for them and this is the phone that I should get. So these kids are really smart.
Todd, any lessons?
From our perspective, we're very analytical about our marketing and the effectiveness of our marketing. So we've tried all the channels, TV, print, but clearly the most efficient for us is online. That's where our audience is. And we're, one of the lessons, it's an art, not a science in this demographic. We do a lot of landing pages. Try to funnel traffic in. It's amazing to me where one landing page will work, the next landing page, which I can't differentiate one from the other, won't work. Whether it's different coloring, different shading, or whatever it is. So it's very much an art, and it's a competitive business out there.
Very much. Leslie, anything from Javian's perspective on lessons learned about this demographic?
Well, we're more internet-based right now. Again, coming at it from a billing and e-commerce perspective, one of the lessons learned is, and a lot of our customers are encountering the reality that these have credit cards or like traditional means, and so they're pretty much compelled to offer abundance of ways to pay, whether PayPal, click and buy, build a phone. You need to give as many options as possible to this demographic in order to conduct e-commerce with them.
Okay. What about obstacle? One of the things that we've seen in this demographic, we're talking 8 to 24, and within there's different segments. You have the pre-high school, high school, college, and then young adults. All of those. Do you see spending being consistent among those? Is it smoothed over all of those, or is any segment greater or less than others?
They're all extremely different segments. I think probably the only place you see any real consistency across them is their voraciousness for the services, and perhaps in some of the content. Across all those, when you get into the content side, hip-hop is still king. You see it in pretty much all of your purchasing patterns for content, if you will. But marketing to all of those is different. We're probably focused on the higher two of those four that you outlined. The younger two of the four, obviously, from a carrier standpoint, the marketing gets a little bit different, that you're getting into more family plans, you're getting into more parent purchasing, child hand-me-down versus the allowance or first job or the aspirational lifestyle. That the second two pieces of that age bracket tend to gravitate towards. But certainly some content is consistent. The voraciousness for the actual services is very consistent. The willingness to try. I think the community elements are now bridging all of those gaps, which is really amazing. But I think the only real difference at this point is how you sell to them.
I would also you see a general increase in usage and spending as the kid gets older and as their network expands. And then once they start having to pay for it themselves, you see a little bit of a decline. It's to see sort of how much they can get away with while mom and or dad are still paying.
So is that the college age? Is that when it happens, or is it after college, or when does that drop off occur?
It depends on the individual family and the individual plan. When somebody's on a family plan, I talk to kids and say, how much content do you download? And it's, well, excuse me, as much as I can without mom and dad really noticing that their bill has gone up substantially. But if they are on a separate plan where it is broken out, the parents will certainly notice sooner. And parents work with kids just in terms of rewards. I mean, very often we'll see cases where somebody will say, okay, you get straight A's, you get an extra $10 a month on your cell phone account. So it's really being used in ways to motivate the kids.
Okay. Todd, have you noticed any difference among the segments in spending or usage?
Yeah, no, we experience, I'd say, very similar things between our actual data that comes in from our customers as well as focus group tests that we've done. We started off this panel by saying that this demographic likes to share. They definitely like to share mom and dad's money. And what we found is that up was for you, by the way. That up until about the college age, it's, you know, as much as I can get away with, similar to your experience, but we definitely see a big hole in college. And, you know, and we were surprised by that, but we saw the same results, excuse me, from several, now I'm doing it. I got it already, thanks. But, so we, you know, it seems when they get to the college age, it's I want everything for free. That mindset. And they don't really want to pay for anything, whether they have the money or not. And then when we see people move into their 20s, their first jobs, etc., then they start to recognize the value. And they think about the service differently than they did when they were on their parents, certainly than when they were in college. They start to say, okay, they start to assess it more as an adult. Am I getting my money's worth out of this service, as opposed to I just want this service? And you know, and luckily they say, yeah, they do see the value. So, but it's a different mindset as they go through those years, from what we find.
Okay.
I can certainly vouch for the college market. One of our customers, Ruckus Network, which does multimedia portals co-branded with universities, launched a year and a half ago, and at first it was offered as a premium service. And about 6 months ago, they switched to a predominantly advertising-based model for just that reason. It's hard to get out of college students.
Unless beer is associated with it.
Yeah. Well, let me ask a question that we've been looking at. Is the usage, the difference in usage, generational, or is it based on this segment? Is it currently 24, but over time it's going to be 25, 26, 27? Is this usage pattern going to stay with this group as they get older, or is it just reside in that age group perpetuity?
It's a good question.
No, I think we could, our numbers and our member base and some of the segmentation work, I think we can say without a shadow of a doubt that it continues. I think it's the willingness to try these services, and it's been the first generation that's been willing to try, but you know, we see as much usage from that next piece of 24 to 30 and the 30 to 34 as well, from, you know, heavy text messaging with, you know, new community applications to the ability, again, a little bit more disposable income. We have a very aspirational brand that we've put in place, and you know, I think we've seen messaging stay high, we've seen content stay high. You know, this isn't the first generation, right? This is really the second generation of mobile, and I think that you know, the first generation is maintaining, if not increasing, the purchasing power that they've had. Content numbers keep going up, messaging numbers keep going up pretty much across all of these age demographics.
Okay. Let me ask one last question, then we'll throw it out to the audience. So, a great question I love to ask panels: what keeps you up at night about this demographic and about being successful with them? Anyone want to start?
So for me, I'm just always looking for new, fun, and different things for kids that they haven't seen before, because they move on to new trends rather quickly, and you don't want to ever be last year's news.
For us, I'm going to give you a very pragmatic answer. What keeps us up at night is trying to figure out what's coming next from our carrier partners. Everything, you know, basically every other week some new rule or issue comes up that causes us to do our business differently, and so we have to stay on our toes.
Okay.
I think what keeps me up at night when we start talking about services is the incredible attention to detail that you need to pay. And things like Howard's Forum, things like Phone Scoop, and the variety of blog, this generation will complain if you miss anything. And the viral nature of those, that feedback cycle tends to build on itself. So, you know, it gets down to having perfect UI. It gets down to understanding the features. So if you want a feature, you better get feedback early from members that actually have used it. If you're migrating something from a PC to a mobile experience, you better know the PC experience and how they use it, because you better do it right on mobile. The thing that keeps tonight is the feedback loop is instantaneous. Any service we put out, if we have a button in a wrong place, if we made the wrong decision around how many messages to allow or a setting, you're going to hear about it on Howard's forums. It's taking the time to think about it up front and, for lack of a better word, not half-assing decisions.
Leslie?
Well, from Javian's perspective, really straightforward. What keeps me up at night is to what degree my customers can be successful in selling to this demographic.
Okay. Let me open it up to questions. Anyone have a question? No? Were we that fabulous in all of our answers that you all know everything about this segment at this point? Okay. I think then we'll go ahead and take our break. If you would give a hand to the panel. And if I believe the next panel can come up. Oh, okay. I've been informed we have a networking break now, so enjoy your networking.
No, don't do this. Hi, how are you?
And anybody who's interested, we've been recording the entire conference, and we have DVDs available on the table back there. Basically, we're all caught up from yesterday. They're $20 a piece or $7 for $100. Either see me or Wendy. Thank you.